Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Black Tapes reaction type thing. Well, OBS has decided to bless us with, I can't point the right way. There we go. Right there. This little guy here. It just randomly does it. I've played with the settings and have no idea what's going on here. It just up and does it randomly. So let's get into this. We are in season 1, episode 4. Turn that frown upside down.
It's this frustration of never knowing that leads us to jump to conclusions.
Yeah, and guilty myself for that whole. I've done that jump to conclusions with not all the facts.
It's tough to argue with him on that count. I want it to be more interesting. The child accidentally recording a message isn't satisfying to me. Strand is certainly right when he says that we want to believe.
And to a certain degree, even as cynical as I am, there are things that I wished, could be proven, because I think would be great.
And yet, that message sounds like somebody's saying, he's not who you think. Our tech guy says somebody could have hacked my phone remotely and sent the recording.
And that, I don't know how true that is, but if that is something that can be done, kind of scary.
An extremely high-tech listener could be messing with us. But why?
Because they can.
The person on the message could be referring to Strand, or maybe it was Strand himself while I was away. Although he really doesn't seem like the type. After the break, we're going to take a look at Strand's latest Black Tape. This is the Black Tapes podcast. I'm Alex Regan.
So yeah, I really like this whole Mueller-Scully dynamic they got going here. It's kind of interesting.
Stay with us.
Yes, the music is kind of cool still, always, and I will probably mention it in every episode.
These images were recorded by an exterior security camera last year.
What's the building?
Yeah, I just wonder how easy it is to go out and go, hey, security footage from, X, Y, and Z. I mean, can just anyone get that, or can you go, or do you, or is there, let me slow my talking down, or is there ways that you forms through maybe, say, police agency or a law firm or something? Or is it, or stuff like that covered in Freedom of Information Act? I don't know.
It's a bank in a town called Charlesworth in Washington.
And what are we looking at?
The door's outside the bank. The camera looks out towards the parking lot.
Who's that?
The interesting arrangement for the, I shouldn't say interesting, it's more of a typical type thing, because you want to see if people are doing nefarious things out in your parking lot.
Let's wait.
Okay. Is she waiting for her, or... Oh, what just happened? Okay, so in the
She just kind of glitched out.
video, which is actually pretty high quality footage for an outdoor security camera, There's this woman in a black hooded robe. Or it looks like a woman, but who knows?
It may be a man, it may be an ogre, an elf. Who knows? In this universe, there's no telling.
Her back is to the camera when she steps onto the sidewalk. Walking toward her, from the parking lot, comes this young woman. She's preoccupied, looking in her purse for something. Doesn't see the hooded woman until she's about 10 feet from her. Then she stops, slowly looks up. Her face, she looks absolutely horrified.
Yeah, we could wonder what's going on.
Then there's a bit of interference, or static. Just a flicker. And it looks like the young woman maybe screams. Then she faints. Although fainting doesn't feel like the right wording. It's
Blackout is probably a better word.
more like she just crumbles.
Crumbles is good. I like crumbles.
The hooded figure then walks off camera to the right. So that lady fainted? What happened?
That was Fiona DeNevers, a customer service representative at the bank.
And interesting.
She was dead when the paramedics arrived. Heart attack.
Ooh, that's not good.
She was 23.
23 and a heart attack. That's really, really eerie.
That's pretty young for a heart attack.
It certainly is.
It looked like she screamed. 4
witnesses claim they did hear a scream, which brought a small crowd to the parking lot where they found her unconscious.
And the woman in the hood? Why didn't she stay and help?
This is where things get interesting.
What things?
I'm guessing you've never been to Charlesworth.
Good
Good guess.
guess?
And if you've never been to Charlesworth, I imagine you haven't heard of the Festival of the Upside Down Face.
Now that sounds like something that could show up either in a Stephen King novel or a Dave Filoni Star Wars show. There's no telling.
You imagine correctly.
In 1957, a 17-year-old girl named Sarah Benning, who was bullied mercilessly by the other girls in her class, snapped and murdered the homecoming queen.
Ooh, that's never a good thing to have happen. Well, someone who never went to homecoming, and so yeah, as somebody who could care less about the politics of the whole high school thing.
Catherine Williams.
How very Carrie.
I like that reference to Carrie.
Of course, Sarah Benning didn't have telekinetic powers.
Of course.
She did, however, have a sharp knife that she used to slit Catherine Williams' throat the night Catherine was crowned homecoming queen.
That's never a good thing.
That's awful.
There's more.
I think awful's kind of an understatement at that point.
Great.
She sliced off Williams' face, and, as the story goes, she stitched it back on, upside down.
Oh my god.
That had to taken a while. Unless you just did like a couple stitches here, a couple on each side, and one on the a couple on the bottom. I wonder if she just stitched the whole way around.
How have I never heard of this?
It was sensational news, but it was 1957.
That might explain a lot.
So they have an upside down face festival? What is wrong with these people?
A local hotel owner named Wilson Pepper dreamt up the idea.
It was a way to drum up tourism and business and money.
1985. By that point, there weren't many people left who remembered the darkness of the 1957 event cast over the town. Charlesworth had just fallen off the list of one of the most haunted places in America, and Wilson Pepper wanted to keep the myth of Sarah Benning alive.
So is the hooded figure supposed to be Sarah Benning or Catherine Williams?
As the story goes, the spirit of Catherine Williams haunts the townspeople of Charlesworth as a reminder of what those girls did to Sarah Benning.
Yeah, a good little wholesome small town legend. Kind of like we have here in Walker County, we have Demon's Road, which, it has its own lore to it.
The ghost of the girl with the upside-down face. Most people wear standard Halloween masks, but they're all worn upside down.
What happened to Sarah Benning?
A few days after the prom, they found her a mile outside of town. She drowned in the Pendore River. She'd apparently thrown herself in.
Jesus. And this festival is, what, supposed to attract tourists for local business?
Wilson Pepper initially did it to keep the occasional supernatural sightseers coming to his hotel.
That makes sense. Because the whole... I think at the time that Minnow Beats Well and Public Radio Lance were doing this was during that whole... This originally came out when the shows like Ghost Spotters, Ghost Hunters, and all that were real popular.
Now it's really quite a tourist attraction.
I suppose it makes as much sense as driving a hot pink school bus into the desert to burn a giant wicker man.
Well, celebrations like these do serve a social function. Like all.
And he does have a right. They get people out and talking and doing stuff with each other in a neutral setting.
All Souls Day, the Dia de los Muertos in Mexico, the Qingming Festival in China. Social psychologists recognize that societies often need a way for people to expunge their fear of the inevitable.
And yeah, that's a good thing. I think that's the reason why you have so many people, especially my age and older, that like the traditional Halloween versus the new safe Halloween, because the old way, when you're going out trick-or-treating, going door to door and stuff like that, there was always a chance of something, screwy happening. You're kind of facing your fears. And now with everything being safe and all that good stuff, the safe stuff is probably better in the long run, but at the same time, you don't have that cathartic release, which may explain some of your problems in schools and colleges and social, big social arenas.
And sometimes the modes we choose to serve this function are odd because they come from our subconscious. The things that scare you will be different than the things that scare me.
And I have, through life experience, found that is really true, because there are things that scare my wife that really are really non sequitur to me, and there are things that spook me that my wife is like, yeah, grow up, you big baby. But it is what it is.
You can't explain why they scare you, but they do.
So, what scares you?
Food poisoning.
Yeah, it's those little irrational things like that. Yes, food poisoning happens, but it's so rare when it does happen. It happens usually like at a restaurant, someplace, Chipotle being one of the popular ones for poisoning people inadvertently. But usually they get that cleaned up pretty quick.
When is this festival?
It starts tomorrow.
You're going, aren't you?
Yep, he is. And we are going to go ahead and call this video good here. Nice little cliffhanger. I've been trying to get those cliffhangers in just because of nostalgia. If you remember like the old serials, I grew up listening to like NPR, and they would rerun like the old Gunsmoke, Phantom, Green Hornet radio dramas, and they always came up to that cliffhanger, and you had your next episode. Fallout, I want to say Fallout 3 plays with that a little bit in one of the quests, or a couple of the quests maybe. So, until next time, be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?